Hey everybody, Tim here with today's episode of Star Trek Voyager, Season 1, Episode 13, Faces. I really liked this episode. I thought it was really well done. So it's the return of the Vidiians, who arguably can be considered the first reoccurring villain. I'm sure some of you are going to be like, no, the Kazons are. We've already seen them. Personally, I didn't think of the Kazons as a villain. Maybe antagonists, but definitely not villains. Whereas the very first time we saw the Vidiians, they had taken out Neelix's lungs. So I definitely consider them villains. But anyways, that all aside, this is their return episode, and I think they're really well done characters. I really liked them. Some of you had commented how they terrified you as children, and they're just a very interesting species, and I really liked it. So for this episode, they take some of the crew hostage, most notably Paris and B'Elanna. And I gotta give Roxanne Dawson all of the kudos. She did such a good episode, or she did such a good job in this episode, where it's kind of weird. Anytime I see her out of makeup, even looking at her IMDb page or anything like that, I can never see her as B'Elanna. I don't know if it's just the prosthetics for the makeup or what, but she does such a good job. So in this episode, they have this whole secret tunnel, and there's another Talaxian, I guess you would say, yeah, Talaxian, on their Neelix's race, and I'm pretty sure this is the first time we've ever seen another Talaxian other than Neelix in Voyager, so that's kind of cool. So this episode is mostly about B'Elanna and how the Vidiians basically take her DNA and they rip it apart. And so now we have a completely Klingon B'Elanna and a completely human B'Elanna. And like I said, Roxanne Dawson did such a good job in this episode, where just playing the dual role and just everything. She did such a good job. And we kind of see how each part balances her as a whole, whereas the Klingon is just abrasive and just mean and direct and just wants to just go out in a battle of glory because today is a good day to die, whereas the human is very mild and very timid and scared and easily hurt. And the two have to work together, and some of the dialogue is just so good. You're the reason I got kicked out of the academy, and I did you a favor, and stuff like that. And by the time we get to the end of the episode, where the Klingon actually sacrifices herself so the human can survive, but then the doctor tells her you as a human, your body can't handle that, and it's gonna break down, so I have to reintegrate the Klingon DNA back into you so that way you can survive. Which I thought was really interesting, because I complained, for those who had done all of my Deep Space Nine reviews with me, I talked about how in the Next Generation, when an episode begins and when an episode ends, you're basically in the same boat. There's very few times where things completely change the way the show goes. And that is kind of true for Voyager, where the episode starts with B'Elanna as a single person, and she gets split into two, but by the time we get to the end of the episode, she's back together as a single person. If this episode had been a Deep Space Nine episode, she would have remained two different people, or at least just the human version of her, because the Klingon version died, for quite a while, and if she had ever gotten put back together. For example, when Odo becomes a solid, it's 8 episodes before he becomes a changeling again. And I feel that would have been the same thing. She would have been split into two, and either the two would have had to live at whatever separately, and then eventually halfway through the season they would have been put back together, or it would have just been a human until they figured out a way. Whereas for Voyager, kind of has that Next Generation feel, where we started with one and we ended with one, but I still really liked it. I thought the makeup was great, the acting was great. I really enjoyed this episode. I thought it was really good. So for those who have seen this one, what did you guys think? What do you guys think about her being split into two people? And what do you guys think? Oh, I've totally forgot about Chakotay. goes like undercover, and he has like all of these cosmetic changes to look like a Vidiian, which, I mean, that's nothing new. That goes all the way back to the original series, but like, I think it's pretty cool that they finally introduced that. So what do you think about her being B'Elanna being split into two? What do you think about Chakotay going undercover as a Vidiian? What do you think about the Vidiians returning? And what do you think about the second Talaxian in the show? There's a lot to talk about for this episode. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for subscribing. It means a lot to me. You guys have no idea. And I will see you guys next time for Jetrel.